In a beautiful land where the fields are always green and the skies are always blue, there lived a man whose life seemed like a perfect fairy tale. His name was Job. He was blessed with everything anyone could ever dream of: a loving family, vast riches, and a reputation for being a good and just man. Everyone admired him, and his home was always filled with laughter and joy. This man was known for his kindness and his unwavering faith in God. But up in the heavens, far above the world we know, a conversation was happening that would change everything. Satan, who had a reputation for stirring up trouble, challenged the idea that people could be truly faithful. He argued that Job's faith was only strong because he had so much. To prove his point, Satan proposed a test that would shake the foundations of Job's life, and so it began. In a series of shocking events, Job's wealth was stripped away from him. His beautiful fields, his countless herds of cattle, and all his riches vanished in a storm of misfortune. One by one, his possessions were lost, his livestock stolen or killed, his servants taken away, and his land turned barren. He went from being a man of great wealth to a man with nothing left but his faith. As if losing his riches wasn't enough, Job faced an even more heart-wrenching blow. One evening, while his children were gathered together in their eldest brother's house, celebrating and enjoying each other's company, a fierce windstorm came out of nowhere. The winds howled like angry spirits, tearing through the house with unstoppable force. The windows shattered, the walls trembled, and in a single devastating moment, the roof collapsed and the walls crumbled, burying everyone inside. His home, once filled with the sound of laughter and joy, was now silent and empty. The man who had cherished his children more than anything in the world was left to mourn the loss of his beloved family. He was overwhelmed by grief, struggling to come to terms with the unbearable pain of losing all his children at once. The joy and music that had once echoed through his halls were replaced by a profound, heartbreaking silence. And still, the trials weren't over. Job's suffering continued as he was struck by a painful illness that left him in constant pain. His once strong body was now weak and broken. The once vibrant life he had enjoyed was now a distant memory, replaced by endless suffering. His body was covered in painful sores, and he sat in the ashes of his former life, scraping his skin with broken pieces of pottery to try to find some relief. Despite his suffering, his faith remained, though it was now more a source of torment than comfort. Job struggled to find solace in his beliefs while facing such overwhelming hardships. During this darkest time, 3 of Job's friends came to visit him. They saw his misery and came with the hope of offering support. At first, they sat with him in silence, sharing his grief. But as days passed, their compassion turned into harsh judgment. They believed that such intense suffering could only be a punishment for hidden sins. This is what the Yorubas call afawofa. One friend, Bildad, insisted that Job's children's deaths must have been due to his own sins. He argued that such tragedies could only come from God's punishment for wrongdoing. Another friend, Eliphaz, claimed that Job's suffering was proof of some secret sins and that he needed to repent to restore his fortunes. Zophar, the third friend, was the harshest of all. He bluntly accused Job of being dishonest about his innocence, saying that a righteous person wouldn't face such calamities unless they had angered God. Their words, meant to be consoling, only added to his anguish, making him feel even more isolated and misunderstood. Job, steadfast in his integrity, defended his innocence with deep frustration and hurt, unable to understand why his friends would think so poorly of him during his time of greatest need. Amidst the turmoil of his losses and the harsh words of his friends, Job struggled with his faith. He questioned why this was happening to him, desperately trying to understand the reasons behind his suffering. He wondered if he had done something wrong, even though he knew deep down that he had lived a righteous life. His heart ached with unanswered questions, and he cried out to God, seeking answers to the mysteries of his pain. Then, from the midst of the storm, a voice spoke, clear and powerful. It was God speaking from the whirlwind. The voice revealed the grandeur of creation, showing Job the stars, the seas, and the mysteries of the universe. God asked Job questions about the creation of the world and the natural order of things, illustrating that there are mysteries beyond human understanding. God showed Job that faith is not about having all the answers, but about trusting and believing even when we cannot see the whole picture. As the storm began to recede, the clouds parted and a beautiful golden light bathed the land. Job was left with a deep sense of peace and a renewed understanding of his place in the grand tapestry of creation. His heart was lifted from the weight of his suffering, and a new chapter of his life began. God restored Job's fortunes in a way that surpassed all that had come before. His once ruined home was rebuilt into a grand and magnificent estate, even more beautiful than it had been before. Job was blessed with a new family, and the joy that filled his home was even greater than the laughter of his lost children. His wealth grew beyond measure, with abundant harvests and thriving herds. The land was blessed, and Job's prosperity was restored many times over. Job's story spread throughout the land, becoming a powerful symbol of hope and faith. People came from near and far to hear the tale of a man who had faced unimaginable trials and emerged with a heart full of gratitude and a renewed spirit. His life became a living testament to the idea that true faith endures through the hardest trials, and that from the depths of despair can come the greatest blessings. And so Job lived the rest of his days in peace and prosperity, sharing his story as a beacon of hope. His life served as a reminder that even when fortune fades, faith can be the guiding light that leads us through the darkest times.